Hi, I'm Alan Collinsworth, and welcome to Corridor 39. Today's program is about Turkey, who aims to become one of the top 10 largest economies in the world by 2023. With one of the highest growth rates, this goal seems reachable. Turkey's efforts to join the European Union has brought on sweeping economic reforms, liberalizing its economy, making Turkey a top destination of foreign investors. But Turkey's growth is challenged by the global financial crisis and sovereign risks brought on by political upheaval in its troubled neighborhood. Too often, investment prospects to modernize core industrial sectors fail to get off the ground here because they cannot attract finance or monopolies will not allow it. The European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, also known as the EBRD, is helping Turkey by investing in renewable energy and agricultural sectors, even when these markets cannot attract finance. It also fosters transition towards more open market economies. With us in the studio is Michael Davey, the EBRD's country director for Turkey. Michael, thank you for being with us.
Pleasure.
What are the greatest attributes of Turkey's economy?
At the moment, one of the things that Turkey's benefiting from most is the fact that there's been a reform process underway in Turkey for the last 10 or 12 years, and we're seeing the manner in which that affects the investment potential and the investment output. It's a very positive factor for Turkey. Other than that, Turkey's got a very good demographic situation. Its geographics is obvious. Its technology base is growing. Its engineering base is strong. And it's the country that has got more dynamic growth than pretty much anywhere else in the region.
In looking 360 degrees from Turkey, you have financial chaos in the Balkans, and well, in Greece mainly, and to the east we have Iraq, which has suffered from almost a decade of war, and it's going through a very painful nation-building process. In Syria, the Arab awakening. In Libya, we have also political chaos. So does Turkey? How does that make Turkey look to the foreign investment community?
You know, when in 2008 with Lehman and chaos in the Western markets, one of the things that mitigated the effect for Turkey was the fact that it had good access to other markets. So Syria, Libya, the markets that weren't immediately impacted by Lehman were markets that were something of a mitigant for Turkey. Now, it's not quite the same. If we've got the threat from the prospect of a big downturn globally, Turkey's got less mitigants. It's got a region, an immediate region, which is going through turmoil, and that's a factor. That's the immediate response, but longer term, if we can see strong, healthy politics and growth in countries in Turkey's immediate region, then that's again emphasizes.
You can look at it two ways. You could either see that Turkey can suffer from the contagion of the regional chaos, but another way of looking at it, it is the only country within, say, a 1,000-mile radius that can sustain billion-dollar investments for manufacturing for export into very resource-rich markets.
Yeah, well, the contagion from the region is not something which is an immediate threat in terms of the way in which Turkey's politics run. When you come to Turkey from other parts of this region, you see a country that's had democracy working with lesser or greater degrees of effectiveness over a period of time, but it's a country that's got a very strong democratic element to how its government's put together and its government operates. So the causes of the turmoil in the immediate region are not present to anything like that degree in Turkey.
Why has Turkey successfully been able to manage the global financial crisis as it has? Not a single bank collapsed in Turkey. And again, I mentioned in my previous question about the regional chaos. Turkey still has its head well above water. Is that a testimony to Turkey's good management? Is it because of measures that were taken earlier?
Without a doubt, the manner in which Turkey's banking system handled the last crisis and the manner in which it's positioned for another potential crisis reflects very good, very strong regulation. And it's something which reflects lessons learned. You know, Turkey's had some bad experiences with its banking sector. The turnaround from 2001 to what we saw in 2008, 2009 was quite amazing. It was a very good piece of work. It's helped Turkey enormously.
So Turkey had 8% growth in 2010. Turkey was one of the top performing emerging markets last year. In 2010 it had a growth rate of 8%, but even still foreign investment is not pouring in as one would expect. Why is this?
It's one of the things that surprised us when we came here. We were expecting to see, if you like, for every privatization tender, for every new concession, a different balance between foreign investors and Turkish investors. But there are still maybe not as many foreign investors there as you would expect to see. 2 or 3 reasons. And on the positive side, there's a very well-funded Turkish investment community. They know their country very well. They're very well positioned to bid for things, and that's what they do. This country's a very good joint venture country. The foreign investors quite often joint venture coming in here, and that works for them. On the other side, there's still some elements of the investment climate here, and this is well acknowledged, that need to be fixed. We've got a government that's been in place in total for more than 80 years, and it's built up a degree of bureaucracy, if you like, which can be difficult to deal with. Things like taxation, licensing procedures. These are things which sometimes negatively affect the way in which foreign investors see Turkey. There's work to be done to make it a more investor-friendly climate.
Michael, do you believe that rating agencies are comprehensive enough when they assess emerging markets?
I think we have to be very careful as to what we look for from rating agencies. Rating agencies' task is to provide a set of benchmarks against which people can assess risk and opportunity in different markets and different operations. The ability of rating agencies to be very country specific and to reflect opportunities in emerging markets is not necessarily something that's not necessarily their strength, and maybe it's not their role.
So every country has its own cadre of political and economic drivers that makes it different from country to country. Can you comment about what makes Turkey or some of the other countries in the region different from the mainstream?
Let's talk about Turkey rather than just countries in the region. Turkey's business environment, which is becoming increasingly transparent, has still got a fairly recent history of very closely held family ownership. The number of the proportion, if you like, of the corporate sector which is using international financial accounting standards as opposed to Turkish standards is growing, but it's still a work in progress. The levels of transparency are different here to what they've been elsewhere. So that's something that the rating agencies have to take account of, or have difficulty taking account of.
And do you believe that the rating agencies, they see Turkey as just sub-investment grade? Would you see Turkey as investment grade?
I can only speak for my institution. We have our own country rating, and I can't tell you what that is. There's a broad perception in the marketplace, and I can certainly sympathise with it, that Turkey's not well treated in terms of its current ratings. But that's a perception in the marketplace. One of the things that was interesting to see was the manner in which Turkey's ratings jumped a couple of notches after the Lehman crisis. And I think that reflected the fact, or reflected a number of facts. It certainly reflected how well the country managed itself through the crisis. But it also reflected the fact that there was a lot of liquidity held abroad by Turkish companies and Turkish individuals that came back in, that certainly resolved foreign debt issues, which at the beginning of the crisis would have been seen as a concern. So if you like, the transparency or the confidence that was generated on Turkey's resilience in the face of an international debt crisis was a result of what came out. So, the rating agencies have learned something about Turkey.
So what other aspects would you advise a foreign investor to look at in Turkey that sort of is outside of the investment consideration factors that a sovereign risk agency would look at?
Well, any investor coming here has got to look at political stability, and there are good political stability indices out there which they can rely on. Coming into this market, the foreign investors need to work out who their partners are going to be and how well they work with them. I don't think it's that different to any other country, to be honest. An investor needs to come and work out how effectively and efficiently he can make a business work. And it may take a little longer to work that out in Turkey, but it's the same parameters as anywhere else.
Recently, our research team was assessing political risk on global. We drew up an economist index, and actually, as of I believe it was January, but it was sometime this year, Libya had a political risk higher than the United States. It's very difficult to.
An indices higher. They were better rated than the United States.
No, they were better rated than the United States.
Yeah.
It's just difficult to an aside. It's very difficult to assess. What is politically stable. Is Iran politically stable, or is Saudi Arabia politically stable relative to Turkey? Is Turkey? Do you believe that Turkey's? Is Turkey politically stable?
One of the things that the people that have worked in EBRD have seen intimately over the last 20 years is transition from countries with no democratic principle, with strong, if you like, strong political domination of what's going on in the economy, toward a more democratic set of institutions. And the conclusion that we draw from our observations from being intimately involved over a decent period of time is that the more democratic a country is, the more stability that you have in terms of putting in place structures and institutions that work for investors and the people. And that's what Turkey's got relative to other parts of the region.
The EBRD states on its website that Turkey's process of accession into the European Union is a key anchor for its long-term economic stability. Now, Turkey's accession process has slowed somewhat over recent years, and of the 35 chapters, only 13 have been open, and only 3 more can be open because the remaining chapters remain frozen because of Turkey's conflict with Cyprus, as well as some diplomatic problems with France. If Turkey slows its European Union process, is this going to have a negative impact for foreign investment?
We are quite close to the EU accession process and the reforms around that. One of the reasons EBRD is working in Turkey is that we've got quite a lot of experience of working with the accession process, the pre-accession process, and we've done that in all of the countries that have acceded to the European Union in recent years. What we see in Turkey is a very complex process. It is a very complex process because of the size of Turkey, the nature of Turkey. In many ways it's more complex than what we've seen in other pre-accession countries.